Let's talk about Manchester City. Erling Haaland scoring his 23rd goal of the season, 18 now in the Premier League. And Kevin De Bruyne, I feel like it's always these two we're talking about every week, and rightfully so. We were talking about Pep's criticism of Kevin De Bruyne last week, saying that maybe he can give more still than he has been given. But Pep said after this game that Kevin De Bruyne put this team on his shoulders. And you could see that celebration and the euphoria from Pep afterwards. He got through a game with a win that perhaps he thought he wasn't going to at one point.
Pep smart. Challenged him the other way. Yeah, great goal from a free kick, but I need more. I need more. And the reason he says that, because he knows that Kevin De Bruyne is by far the most important player for Manchester City. Erling Haaland, we can sit here and talk about his quality, his goals. Without Kevin De Bruyne, none of that happens. And I'm not even talking about the relationship and the partnership those two have struck up so quickly, right? Because remember, there was a goal, Kevin De Bruyne, what a cross and a header, inches or millimeters offside somehow. But we've seen this movie before, and we're going to continue to see that. So he understands that Kevin De Bruyne is obviously needed for Haaland to be as successful. Not to say that Bernardo Silva can't do it and Gundogan and all the players, but look, if Manchester City are going to continue to win the Premier League and win the Champions League, Kevin De Bruyne has to be at his best. Kevin De Bruyne at his best, for me, nobody like him. Nobody like him. And again, we have to say it, that 10, 15, 20 years from now, I am not 100% sure that we're going to be talking about Kevin De Bruyne as one of those historical legends of the game. And we should be. That's the unfortunate part. But anyway, I think Pep Guardiola knows exactly what he's doing. He knows that he's got a gem of epic proportion. And that's not Erling Haaland. That's Kevin De Bruyne.
You mentioned the knockout games, you mentioned the Champions League. I think it's really interesting to hear that Pep said afterwards, and he showed that he's well aware of the risk in these knockout games, because on João Cancelo's sending off, he said his players can learn not to give the opponent something. And then he said, because in a knockout game, we could be out. So you can see, and obviously, of course, it's Manchester City. They want to win the Champions League, but he sent a message to say, don't do something stupid that could cost us. Mm-hmm. Like if this was a knockout game, and I feel as though he's already looking at all the little factors that could prevent them winning the Champions League this season.
Well, let's assess that. I mean, that's individual with João Cancelo. Obviously, you don't want to do that. But, the way they play with such a high defensive line, you're going to benefit from that on a number of occasions, right? But it's an inherent risk that you take. And that's what happened. Cancelo probably wanted to, to get there and defend that. But, the way it happened, it's almost... I want to say it's one of those incidental ones. It's just because it happened again. Remember, I mean, a high line in the second half. I don't know if you remember her. I think it was again Harry Wilson, but this time it was Ake. It was same identical situation. Just Wilson missed the goal by inches on the far post. But that's what happened. So it could be Cancelo, could be anybody else. So yes, he may direct that towards Cancelo, but he also has to be honest with himself. I'm talking about Pep Guardiola, and to say, okay, how do we cover for each other if that does happen? How do we recover? Because that isolation one-on-one was there twice. Once they paid the price for it, and the second time, fortunately, they didn't. But that's the risk reward you take if you Manchester City, because they do play the highest line in the league. Liverpool does it as well, but I think Manchester City, I mean, look at that line. It's pretty much halfway line on the red card. And the second situation that I was talking, it was maybe 5 yards inside their own half, maybe, but pretty much on the halfway line. So I think that's what Pep Guardiola has to think about more than the fact that, okay, you're asking your players to take such risk, and then you're also asking them to recover and be absolutely perfect when you know that if you play against Nkunku, that they will play obviously in the next round, or maybe PSG, and you're going to face Mbappe. Yeah, you're going to have to strike that balance of saying that maybe that line needs to be a little bit lower. Maybe I've got to help my players not to be in a position like this. So I think it's a little bit unfair, but I also think that Pep didn't really go to Cancelo and say, I think you're crazy in what you did. Because I don't know if he did much. I think it was the opposition that forced him in particular. Could have been anybody else. It was almost Nathan Ake to do that.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.